Hey guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we'll be talking about, as you can see behind me, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to be doing a season projections. We're going to make some predictions as to what's going to happen with certain players, our new coming players, our players in the past who have been here for a while. Obviously, subtracting a big all-star winger like Mitch Marner can make a difference, but today we'll be talking about how the Leafs are going to fare next season. And I'm going to give you the complete breakdown of everything you're going to need to know and everything you're going to want to know for the next season. This includes the analysis of new players such as Dakota Joshua, Nicolas Roy, Matias Maccelli, who I actually did make a video on earlier in my career on YouTube. But the point is, we're going to come back to it, make a few more predictions, see who's going to play well, who's going to play a little bit less, maybe less ice time than last year, but even worse than last year. Maybe hopefully nobody, but we're going to see what happens, and hopefully we can get a good projections going and make some good predictions for the season. One thing that's going to be hard to accept for a lot of Leafs fans, including myself, is that next season is going to be a different season than what we've seen in the past. Now, different can be good. Don't get me wrong. It could be a good thing. But what I will say is that we don't have an all-star winger like Mitch Marner on that first line anymore. He was the one who made a lot of the plays, made a lot of the power play push, and therefore he was a big asset to this team. However, I think we've done a great job in filling the holes that we had in this team with the salary cap we were able to use from Marner's departure. Because of this, I think we're in a good spot, and just because it's different doesn't mean it's not good for the next season. The main talking point everyone wants to talk about is how will Auston Matthews fare next season? Hopefully fully healthy. You know, last season he got injured in training camp, and all we can do is hope that doesn't happen this year. But if he's fully healthy and he's back, I see no reason why Auston Matthews can't get back to his elite projections and elite level goal scoring and point scoring, as well as amazing two-way play. A lot of people think that Auston Matthews gets a lot of help from Mitch Marner, and you know, he did, don't get me wrong. But if you look at Auston Matthews' stats without Marner in the lineup over the past few seasons, or overall his career, he's actually well over points per game, and honestly, he looks just fine without him. The real question is going to be, and there's another talking point for next season, is that who is going to be that first-line winger with Auston Matthews and Matthew Knies, assuming they stay together, which I don't see why they wouldn't. Will it be William Nylander? People don't seem to think so. People think that Nylander will stay on that second line, try to drive his own line, maybe with John Tavares in that line too. Will it be Matias Maccelli, new addition from the Utah Mammoth? Can he be that one to be an elite playmaker for the Leafs? Could be Max Domi. We've seen Domi work on Matthews' line in the past. Obviously, he had a pretty down season last year, but can he come in and make all the difference? For me, I would pick Maccelli to start the season. I think he has such an upside that we haven't seen yet as Leafs fans, but a new environment, playing with even better players than he did in Utah, formerly Arizona. I think he has no reason not to succeed in this lineup, and I think he deserves the chance to at least try with Matthews and Knies. See if he can put up some points, and if he can't, then you throw Domi in there, you throw Nylander in there, you do whatever you have to do to get that top line going. But for me, my starting right winger, is Matias Maccelli. So if Matias Maccelli is my starting right winger on that first line, then who is the starting left winger on the second line? We have a lot of options. You can talk about Max Domi, you can talk about Bobby McMann, even Nick Robertson, a little wild card pick. I'm going McMann, and I think it's a perfectly fair pick. I mean, he's been a good goal scorer the past few seasons. He put up 20 goals last year, 15 the year before, and way less games than 82. I don't remember exactly how many. McMann's a great goal scorer. He's also a good power forward. I will say in the playoffs last year, I was a bit disappointed by how he played. I mean, he just didn't really show the heart that we usually see out of him. You know, I actually met him in the Toronto, the Winter Festival, I think it's called, and he's a really nice guy. We had a good chat, but Bob McMann is my pick for a second line winger. I think we need that kind of speedster left winger who has a little bit of grit to him as well and can put the puck in the net. He brings all those attributes to the table, and for that reason, I think he has to be our second line winger. So where does that leave our third line? Well, we have so many depth options this season, and it's honestly the first time probably in my career as a Leafs fan, or at least for the past 10 years, we've had the luxury of having a solid third, fourth line selection. The third line center, you probably go with Nicolas Roy. Considering Scott Laughton honestly did a great job on the fourth line last year. I know that we paid a first round pick for him, and he's a legit player. I really do like Scott Laughton, and if you want to make an amazing defensive line, you probably go Roy with Scott Laughton playing on the wing, or Roy playing on the wing, Laughton playing center. But the point is, I would go Nicolas Roy third line. And we gotta talk about Dakota Joshua. Dakota Joshua is probably, for me, besides Maccelli, the most intriguing pickup of the whole Leafs offseason. And the reason I say that is because He literally came off of cancer last season, and people are still upset with him for having a down year. There's no way that that's a realistic expectation. He was a legit producer the past few seasons, aside from last year. The year before, he was a really good point producer. He even played well in the playoffs for Vancouver. He's a legit player, and he's a great power forward for the bottom six. I think he has no reason to not succeed, especially in a Toronto market and a newfound Toronto team that loves this grit kind of style of player. He's a really exciting option to have. I think he's going to be a very important asset for the bottom six. And for me, he's my third line left winger. The question that remains, who goes in that right wing spot on that third line? Well, for me, it'd be Nick Robertson, because I think at least to start the season, you got to have a little bit of offense on that line. You know, with Joshua and Wah both being kind of two-way players, both gritty, power forward kind of styles, I think you need a little bit of goal scoring on that line. And if you can do it, then Nick Robertson can be a legit player once again this lineup. We always see inconsistency from Nick Robertson, but if this could be the year where he actually shows that he can do it on a game-to-game basis and not just after he's scratched, then he would be a revelation for Leafs fans and obviously the team as a whole. So I'm still a Nick Robertson believer. I know some people probably aren't, but I think he has a lot of upside, especially his offensive game. And if he's combined on a line with two good defensive forwards, like I said earlier, then I think his liability on defense is kind of minimized, and he can be a legit contributor on that third line. Regarding the fourth line, it's honestly up in the air. I don't know who's going to be playing there. We have so many options now. A guarantee is Scott Law, and I honestly loved his play in the playoffs. I thought he was so good defensively. I want to see a bit more offense from him, but if we can get that offensive side of him too, he's going to be a legit contributor to this team. I thought he was great in the playoffs. I didn't love his play in the regular season, but if he can bring that playoff form to next season, I think he can be a really good addition. Biggest talking point for me regarding the bottom six and potentially the top six, but it's a bit of a reach, is Easton Cowan. Like, where does Easton Cowan fit in this lineup? And honestly, does Easton Cowan fit in this lineup? Well, the point is, he is a legit point producer in the junior level. We obviously saw him not do the best job at the World Junior Championships, but we all know that was an off tournament for him. Let's not beat around the bush. You know, this guy had the longest point streak I remember seeing. I don't know if it's the one of all time, but the longest I remember seeing the OHL, 50+ games. He can just put the puck in the net, or he can put it on the tape of other players to put it puck in the net. So I think he is such a talented player. Yes, he is still young, and he has a lot of time to grow, and he probably has some things he needs to work on as well. But if we're looking for some offense, and we need some offense out of this lineup, Easton Cowan is a no-brainer to throw in the lineup at some point in this season. Now, will he be starting on day one? I don't exactly know, because honestly, I don't know where he would play either. We have these kind of top lines of skill and finesse, but also heart and, you know, sturdy two-way play. And we have the bottom six, which is not really as much for scoring, and it's more for defensive play. Well, where does he fit in that? Him and Nick Robertson, to me, are kind of similar styles, where they're both very much offensive focused. Yes, they both can do some defensive work, but they're known for their offense. And I don't know if there's a room for two of those same type of players in the lineup. So which one do you prefer in the lineup? You know, I'd go Robertson to start. Cowan, I think, will definitely get a few games at least at some point in the season. He might crack the spot in the top 12 offense, but for the time being, I don't know if I start him in the top 12. Now we got to talk about the defense core. We got to talk about Morgan Rielly, who is coming off probably his most down year. And you know I'm a fan. You can see the jersey right there. That was my first jersey I ever got as a Leafs fan. I was a huge fan of his, and I still am. But we definitely need him to be a step-up producer in the offensive zone and put the puck in the net and also make plays for his teammates, get a bunch of points. I honestly don't see the Leafs winning a cup without a number one defenseman. And the reason I say that is because in recent cup history, it just seems like every team has a legit number one defenseman. And if not, they have a bunch of like number 2 to number 1 defensemen. Even Florida last year when they had Ekblad, Forsling, Seth Jones, and you know, even others too. Like, the point is they have so many players that can contribute. The Leafs have a solid defensive core when it comes to Tanev. When you think of Jake McCabe, Carlo, even Benoit, you know, like these guys are legit heart players. Without Morgan Rielly playing at his best, it's so hard to imagine the Leafs being able to produce as much, especially this year, because Mitch Marner used to quarterback the power play. Now we're going to have Morgan Rielly doing it, and he's going to need to produce. We're going to feel the effect of Mitch Marner leaving the power play. There's no two ways about it, but Morgan Rielly is going to have to step in and be that quarterback on the power play. give the puck to guys like Nylander, Matthews, and make the right plays. So we're going to need at least a 60-point season from Morgan Rielly this season if we want to be one of the best teams in the league. And I think we have a chance to do so, but he needs to bounce back. He's on a big contract. The Leafs fans love him. Some of them don't, but if he plays well, they all love him. He's a great, great player at his best, and hopefully he can get there again. The rest of the decor is just so solid. I can't complain at all. I love Chris Tanev, Jake McCabe. Those guys are such great defensive defensemen. They definitely do their job well. We honestly could use a bit more offense from someone like Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And the reason I say that is because not only has he done it in the past, I know he's older than he was when he was on like Arizona, or I guess Phoenix at the time, doing it. But my point is, we do not have a lot of offense in this defensive core. We have guys like Tanev, McCabe, Benoit, Carlo. These guys are just shutdown players. They're not there to put the puck in the net, do some crazy moves. They know their role out there. We really have two options for offensive defensemen. That's Morgan Rielly and Ekman-Larsson. If Rielly's not going to do it, we have to get something from Ekman-Larsson. Like, could he be the quarterback of the power play? I prefer Rielly to start, but if Rielly continues to falter, like, will we see Ekman-Larsson on that power play one? I don't know yet, but we need one of these two to make a great offensive push this season if we want to be a successful team. Then we have the goaltending. I love our goaltenders. I really do. I think the biggest issue for our goaltenders is the injuries. Stolarz got hurt last year. Joseph Woll is honestly pretty consistently an injury concern. Obviously, we have Woll locked up for a couple more years, which is really nice to have. Joseph Woll is a great tender, but I don't think he's our starting this year. I think Anthony Stolarz has to start on day one. I think he is the better goalie. Stolarz is also playing for a contract this year. He's on his last year of his UFA deal. And I think, although he had an amazing season last year, he's actually one of the best goalies in the league when it comes to save percentage, goals against average. Can he do even better this year? I don't know if that's too much of an ask, but when a player's playing on their contract, they typically do, their best because they want to get paid the most money. But he seems to generally love Toronto, and I think he's going to get his contract done at some point in the season. I don't see us waiting until June, July to sign him. So I'm looking forward to them signing him at some point. They just re-signed Dennis Hildeby to a 3-year extension. I don't think he cracks the top two unless we have injuries, of course. But he'll probably be the Marlies goaltender unless we need him. And great option to have, He's a very tall guy. He can cover a lot of the net. And our goaltending is in safe hands, in my opinion. So we have to talk about some frequently asked questions or some hot topics for the Leafs this season. And I think the first one is, what will be Matthew Knies' progression this season? Well, last season he was very good. He put up about 65 points, and I think he is just blossoming into one of the best power forwards in the league at a young age. And I think he's honestly getting kind of disrespected by a lot of fans online. Obviously, a lot of them are rival fans, and I can't speak upon them too much because they're obviously going to hate on the Leafs. Everyone hates on the Leafs. But I will say that Matthew Knies is blossoming into an amazing player. Can he be a point-per-game player this year? I know it's going to be tough because Matthews is going to be leading the line without Marner this year. And Marner was obviously the one making a lot of plays for Knies and Matthews to the points where Matthew Knies. So will Matthew Knies be able to crack 82 points this year in an 82-game season? I don't know. I can see him put up at least 70 with 30 goals, and I think that could be a great season for him. Let's not forget, he's still young. He has lots of room to grow, but he will have a lot of reliance on him this year because of the absence of Marner. He's going to be one of our top wingers, our top forwards in the team, and hopefully one of our top point producers. So I think he can put up 70 points, maybe 75, 30 to 35 goals, and if he can do that, to me, that's a great season for him. We already talked about Nick Robertson and Easton Cowan, but what happens with Calle Jarnkrok and David Kampf this year? The whole summer we heard of them getting traded or waived or released, and they're still here. They're still Leafs. So will they crack the top 12 forwards? No one knows yet. We still think about guys like Steven Lorentz, who's probably going to be on that fourth line. I really like his work ethic and the way he plays. He's very impressive. With Scott Laughton also playing on that line, there's guys like Robertson, Cowan. Where will Calle Jarnkrok fit in the lineup? Can he be that fourth line right winger? Can he even find a spot on the third line? I think there's definitely options for him. I think our center depth right now, however, is so strong that I don't know if I can see David Kampf making the lineup. Respectfully to Kampf, his offensive game is honestly just not there as of late, and honestly for the past few years. And for that reason, we have so many players who are kind of like David Kampf, but better right now when it comes to Laughton. When you think of Nicholas Waugh. So for that reason, I don't see Kampf cracking the top 12. Does that mean he's getting traded? Does that mean he's getting waived or anything like that? It's possible, but for the time being, he's a Leaf. If he comes in and plays, we'll support him. But I don't see him cracking the top 12 on opening day. Lots of Leafs fans also talking about acquiring a late free agent pickup such as Jack Roslovic. And listen, I'm all for adding new players to the team at the right price, of course. And Jack Roslovic is a good point producer, and that's definitely a good option for the team. But like I said, our forward core is so jammed up right now. So I'm just wondering, like, where we fit any more new forwards. You know, like I understand some of them are upgrades on our current players, but at the end of the day, we have to keep the current players as well unless we trade them or waive them. So when it comes to that, how do you make all these lineup decisions? Who plays, who plays at all? And it's definitely like an interesting conversation to have about Jack Roslovic. And will he become a Leaf? I don't know. I'm all for it. I think he'd be a great third or fourth liner. I think he'd be a great offensive piece next to our defensive forwards like Dakota Joshua, Waugh, Scott Laughton, Lorentz, etc. But we'll have to see. I don't want to pay too much for him either. You know, there's a certain number 97 in the free agency next year, and we got to save money for that. Listen, I'm not holding out too much hope on Connor McDavid coming to the Leafs, but if it happens, I will do anything, you know? So we need this guy on the team. For now, we're going to stay focused on this season. And with that being said, I mean, yes, there's speculation about the Leafs, about who's going to play where, but how well they're going to do next season. I have them projected to be the second seed in that Atlantic Division next year behind the Florida Panthers. I think the Florida Panthers, you know, they just won the Cup back-to-back years, but not only that, they also kept their whole lineup intact for the most part, and they didn't lose any of their superstars as we thought they were going to lose. Maybe Sam Bennett, Marchand, Ekblad, maybe all three. They're all still in the team, so I don't know how they pulled that one off, but I think that the Leafs can be a strong second place. I don't think we're going to fall off too hard this season. I hope not, at least, because yes, we lost a star player, but we added a ton of depth, and that's what Leafs fans have been calling out for years, including me. So I'm thrilled to have some depth in the bottom six, and I'm looking forward to this season a lot. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other points or questions that you might have for the Leafs season ahead. Who will play where? What will players like Henry Thrun be involved in? You know, that's a curious one as well. We picked up a player like that for Ryan Reeves. Can he crack the top six on defense? You never know, right? But other players like that who are kind of borderline top 13 forwards or top 7 defensemen, and it's like, will they ever crack the lineup? We'll see. But it's going to be a very interesting season for Leafs fans this season, including myself. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know in the comments below what you think about what's going to happen this year, how the Leafs will play this year. Will we be a playoff team? Will we somehow miss the playoffs? I really hope not. But are you optimistic about this season? Let me know below. Thanks so much for your time today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.